Oh yeah, sexy biscuits. Nice.
Long boy clothes, 1975. A YouTuber is on the rise. Reviewing games late at night and sometimes friends used to bug him. Long boys clothes, 1975.
Hey YouTube, Long Boys Post 1975. I apologise if you can hear a weird clicking, whirring noise. I shouldn't say this out loud. Touch wood. I hope my camera's not going to give up the ghost again, but it does this from time to time, and it can be the focusing mechanism because I've just set it to manual. Anyway, I digress. Let's carry on. It's Wednesday. It's about 6:45 in the morning. I've just got home from work, which means it's time for a Wednesday vlog. I'm off for a few days. The weekend starts here, so you know, chin chin. Now you've read the question. Something I wanted to talk about that's kind of popped up a few times before, but it's become a little bit more relevant after a conversation I had with a friend, or a friend who's a work colleague, and you know, quite a bit younger than me. And this conversation made me feel old because he's like 22. And basically, yeah, you saw the question. Are amusement arcades still relevant or as relevant in gaming today as they were back in the day? I think it's safe to say if you're of a certain vintage like me, we all have an extreme sense of nostalgia for, you know, the amusement arcades. It was a staple of, you know, our childhood seaside holidays. You know, it was a special treat. Are these relevant today? This guy at work said he'd never been in an amusement arcade, and I was like, what? Really? You've never been in an amusement arcade? And he's like, well, no, I've played, you know, machines here and there in like the foyers at, I was going to say supermarkets, that would be fucking awesome. In the foyers at like cinemas and, you know, pizza places, you know, big chains, and like bowling alleys, but I've never been in a dedicated arcade. And I think it's safe to say they're not as prevalent now as they used to be. I mean, we used to have, was it Dave and Buster's? That's gone now from Bristol. We used to have big ones. More so, this is slightly after the period when I was a kid, where you get big, you know, complexes, and you'd actually buy tokens to put in and stuff like that and win prizes. But for me, my favourite area as a kid, as I've also mentioned, Westford Ho and Minehead, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal for arcades to have the latest machines ahead of everyone else. So I asked him, like, why he never been in an amusement arcade, like, because you know there are some still around. Down the road from me is a seaside town, Westford Ho, and they still have arcades. And this tied into his answer, but yeah, he said, because why would I? I've got an Xbox One and a PlayStation 4. I really can't see the point. And that's what got my brain thinking. And I mean, maybe they aren't relevant anymore, because the last time I went in one was down Blue Anchor, no, fuck no. They had great ones too back in the day. Down Weston-super-Mare. About 2 years ago, just out of curiosity, when I was there for something else. I think I was going to the bank, and I just, you know, went in for a curious wander around. I had no interest in playing them, but I think time has moved on, and the point, you know, like he touched upon without even sort of realising it, is maybe they aren't relevant anymore. Maybe they were more special back in the day, because for many of us, they're our first experience of, you know, gaming. And for you know, the longest time, arcades were always specs and specs and specs ahead of the home systems. Home systems have always tried to import, you know, import, I can't think of the word, you know, make the arcade, or make a home version of an arcade game, because it's always been, you know, due to their popularity, particularly as I said back in the day, that people wanted to play these games at home, but so, like as I said, power of the systems was always, you know, way behind and lagging. So while we had fun of these early arcade ports, that's the word I was looking for, it was still, you know, far more special to play them, you know, play the original version in the arcade. And this went on for years and years and years. Just, you know, there were great ports like Chase HQ on the Spectrum, great ports on the Amiga and Atari ST. Then we had the Master System, Mega Drive and SNES, which always promised arcade perfect but never quite delivered. But, you know, as fast as home systems were running forward, yeah, the arcade was always leaps and bounds ahead of it. And I think the more time that has passed and the further up through technology we have come, you know, starting, I would say, particularly with the PlayStation 2 age, Xbox age, where, you know, in Dreamcast, where we were getting absolutely bang on amazing ports, this was obviously, to at least these are my thoughts, harming the arcade industry. Is there a correlation or a link between the fact that this is when arcades started to drop, which is, why would you go into an arcade with a pocket full of shrapnel or a sock full of quids when you could just outlay 40 quid, you know, outright, and just have extreme replayability, you know, not have to leave the comfort of your home and go into at least then an area that smelt of fucking BO and booze and had cigarette smoke in the air. So I think possibly this provided a viable alternative because the hardware was good enough to do our favourite, you know, machines. Possibly to some degree, starting maybe on the PlayStation 1 era or stuff like Ridge Racer. So, you know, the further we've come forward, is this been what's been putting people off? Then I think it's safe to say now, as my friend said with his comment, which is, what's the point? I've got these two systems. You know, I haven't been in an arcade for 2 years, but I think it's safe to say whether they, you know, are up to a level of arcade machines. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. That's why I'm not going to commit to that. But I think it's safe to say that they deliver a very, very solid experience. You know, same with PCs, that why would you go to an arcade, you know? Like, and, excuse me, Windy Pops. I had Finder's crispy pancakes, cheese filling for breakfast, and I put Marmite across the top. Squeezing Marmite, of course, try it, absolutely amazing. Until he hiccups. But yeah, you know, so why would you go to the arcades? I mean, if you've not grown up in the period like I myself and our generation did, you're not going to have this, you know, sublime attachment, sense of nostalgia to these places and the evolution of video games. You know, if you're in, like I said, in the early 20s, then your experience of home consoles has been from a position of extreme power. So I can understand why for that generation it possibly, I mean, I'm just talking about, you know, this, that's why I want to know your thoughts and opinions, because of, you know, talking to this guy at work. But, you know, maybe that it's a generational thing. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Have they lost their relevance to back in the day? I think, yes, that's just me. Not completely irrelevant in such an extent, because, you know, curiosity's sake and trips to the seaside and things like that will always mean there's some place for them. Not as big a place as they used to have in history. That certainly will never ever happen again, regardless of the fact that arcades can suddenly just jump forward and forward and forward ahead of the consoles. I think now that this has happened, that's where the true experience of gaming is. But then that's just a sign of the times, which is technology basically makes that happen in any sort of aspect of life, you know, like cars becoming cheaper, public transport no longer needed as such, you know. That's a big leap, but you know what I mean. So yeah, are they as relevant in the game, you know, in the gaming experience as they were back in the day? I honestly don't think so. As I said, there will always be people of my or our generation who, you know, who will always find a fascination to them. But then that's kind of based, as I said, on looking back to the past and our nostalgia attached to them. But they're certainly, as far as I'm concerned, not as relevant as they were back in the day, particularly with newer, you know, generations of, you know, people growing up. I think, you know, to some degree, the nostalgia of the retro, you know, collecting in community, people who, you know, who are of different age set than myself, but I got into retro gaming, then obviously it will be relevant to them, but they would probably be in the minority compared to, you know, the people who've just grown up knowing these behemoths of power, you know, in their game systems and consoles. Anyway, yeah, I really like to know what you think, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.